she used to say that was really the social time for the children to have their intercourse of one to another. So that was all planned.
You certainly know more about her than most people.
Well, Ruth, you have to remember that I went through the school, I had the teacher's training, then I was never on faculty, but I was always there, being called upon, and then I lived with her.
Living with her, I think I liked
A great deal. And of course, Kenny, having married Ken, who was her foster son, and he was so devoted to her and to the philosophy. And we were married and lived in the boarding department. I think Ronald remembers.
Yeah.
Which I don't like to call it a boarding department. I like to you remember our, yes, our dear little room. Do you both feel that because you were exposed to this philosophy, that it gave you something within your lives that gave you self-assurance and a lack of fear to try and to do whatever you thought you wanted to do?
To a certain extent, yes.
You felt that? I felt that very strongly, and I felt it very strongly in Ken. That there was a courage there that was magnificent within his person.
I imagine some of that was true, although I never thought of it that way.
No, you probably wouldn't, but I hope you think of it now, Ronald.
You don't have too many years to think about it, do you?
Sure.
You do? You're going to be 100?
Sure.
Why not? 110. If he's still going into Mobile 2 days a week to the clinic,
Well,
when he's 90 years old, he's doing all right.
Mary drives him over there and back again.
Right now, as soon as I get my glasses, I've had just recently a cataract operation on both eyes with implants.
He'll be driving himself again, he says.
Open.
The organic school.
The organic school was more open.
Well, I think it took away the stress that you build up if you knew your examinations were coming. And I think that the children were freer.
I think you had a feeling of not being controlled as much, although I don't remember really being controlled when I was in the public school. I'm sure that's part of the feeling of freedom that you got.
She used to say to us in teachers' training, why should we fail Johnny if he can't jump a 6-foot pole? And yet maybe Harry can do it. We make ridiculous barriers. What I want of you as teachers is to realize that each child has potential, and we mustn't judge one child against another. But what you must be conscious of is this child developing the 3 ways that we must stress: physical, spiritual, and mentally. And if you have a child that's an avid reader, say at 5, watch the child carefully, because the child might be withdrawing and not being social. You've got to watch all 3, and then you must bring the child out, and not letting the child sit there and read all day, but bring the child into other areas. It was not an easy school to teach in if you were sincere.
Yeah, Mrs. Johnson did say that when you got in the specialty schools, then you did have to have some examinations. That was brought out on 1 or 2 occasions, that in the specialty schools, the professors had to know exactly what you were doing about these specialties, and they couldn't depend entirely upon somebody, a teacher, watching them and following their work.
many times, Ronald, she used to say to Kenny and me, this philosophy will not work throughout education until our higher institutions of education treat the young people coming into them in the same manner in which you have gone through this school. And you're only going to retain really those things that you're interested in, and what we need you to do as teachers is to teach children, keep the children curious, full of their ability to create, and teach them where they can go to get the facts. Because there's so many more facts than we can ever keep in our brains. And each one has his own potential.
Yeah, I think in medicine, when you went through your internship and what they call a clerkship, you were doing things there, and you learned through doing. But still, they had to know, the teachers had to know whether you had all of the information that you needed in order to do the job that you were going to have to do.
I know there were couple of boys in high school who were not meeting what the teacher felt they could do. And they did the nice thing was that they didn't fail the boys that year in school because they couldn't do the academic work, but they were good in football and then in athletics. And they went on, and one of these boys went to the University of Texas and graduated and taught football. So it shows what they can do. I mean, if they can't do one thing, they can do another.
Well, I like to tell the story about the boy that started in kindergarten with us, came from a family out east, a couple of miles out into the country. And I don't know whether you all realized it, but Marietta Johnson saw to it that in each group there was either a mentally deficient or a physically handicapped child. Did you all realize that? She did. That she actually purposely put in one child into our group so that we learned empathy and kindness. And this boy went through the high school, and he was so, in the grammar school or the lower school, he functioned very well because there was so much activity. And we got into the high school, and of course at that time, then it was structured. You went to English, and you went to history, and so forth and so on. And this Johnny would get very agitated, and he could not academically do the work. And so the teachers would say to him, Johnny, you want to go out and fly your kite? He loved kites. And if the day was, now he wasn't even good in the manual arts, but he would go onto the campus and do something. He'd come in when he felt like it. Well, I couldn't understand that. And this young man stood on the platform and graduated with us and received a diploma. So when we were in teachers training, I said to Mrs. Johnson one day, Aunt Betty, I cannot understand how you could let Johnny graduate. She so often answered you with a question. She said, what did his diploma say? I said, I don't know. She said, what did yours say? It said, I attended the organic school for 12 years. She said, that's what Johnny said. I said, but what if he wants to go to college? She said, now, I think you realize Johnny's never going to college. But if you're privileged to watch Johnny, I feel that Johnny will be a success, and he will do well by the community and for himself. About 2 years later, Johnny's brother died, leaving 2 small children, a niece and a nephew, and the widow. About a year after that, the mother died. Johnny took those two children, started a little truck garden, and was a very respected citizen. He went from door to door selling his produce. He also supplied greers. He educated those two children before his death. Now, in my philosophy, I say that Johnny was a success.